The owner of the place thought I was crazy. I threw a brown paste on the ground, counted to 40, and the ground started to move. In less than a minute, there were more than 100 earthworms wriggling on the surface, as if someone had turned the soil upside down. And the funniest thing is that this trick wasn't born in any laboratory. It came from backwater chatter, from old river dwellers who never set foot in a fancy fishing store. People spend a fortune on packaged earthworms, synthetic bait with an artificial smell, and ignore what old fishermen have known for decades. Want to understand why this trick works so fast? How to prepare it for pennies and still turn it into respectable bait to fill your fish tank? Stay with me. If this is your first time here, subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any secrets the industry tries to hide. I'll tell you about the day that made me never look at earthworms the same way again. We were in a damp area by a stream in the interior of Paraná. Late afternoon, the ground hard-packed from foot traffic. 2 buckets in hand, one with that old-fashioned homemade mixture, the other just water. In the first test, we poured pure water on a patch of about 2 square meters. We waited. 1 or 2 little creatures appeared, maybe 3 or 4 earthworms in almost a minute. Nothing that caught our attention. Then came Grandpa Zay's trick. He took the bucket with the mixture, spread it on another identical patch, and what happened sounds like an exaggerated fisherman's tale, but it's not. In about 40 seconds, you could already see the soil pulling, as if it were slowly boiling. When we bent down to count, it easily surpassed 100 earthworms in the same space, where before we'd barely released half a dozen. It wasn't just one day. We repeated this trick in an old vegetable garden in the interior of Minas Gerais and in a dark earth backyard on a farm in Goiás, always with the same pattern. Part of the land with a mixture, part without. And the treated area always exploded with earthworms rising quickly. The older river dwellers said that this trick was born to harvest earthworms without destroying the ground with a hoe. Grandfather passed it on to father. Father whispered it to his son by the wood stove while cleaning fish, and told of when he used to pull out giant earthworms with a bucket using the same trick. Today, a lot of people pay dearly for pretty packaging of bottom attractant and forget that this knowledge was born from the calm observation of the clay, the rain, and the smell of wet earth after composting. We are living in the craziest era of fishing. There has never been so much technology, so much information thrown onto the internet, and yet a lot of fishermen continue to return home with few catches, frustrated, without understanding why some guys always fill their live wells while they just take pictures of the river. What if the very strategies that even the most experienced anglers don't share publicly are what's missing from your fishing trips? Those invisible adjustments to water reading, spot selection, bait type, and decision-making that don't appear in YouTube videos, but completely change the outcome in practice. That's why the ebook High Level Fishing was created. A practical, straightforward guide, where you discover the pillars that truly make a difference in fishing, and learn to apply, step by step, the same strategies that the most successful anglers use in the water. This isn't just another superficial resource repeating obvious tips. Here you'll truly understand how to think like a high-level fisherman, how to read the environment, choose your spots better, adjust your techniques, and prepare intelligently for each outing, greatly increasing your chances of catching more fish in less time. Download now using the link pinned in the first comment. Please note, this special offer from $19.90 to just $14.92 is available for a limited time only and may be discontinued at any time. Now comes the part that people doubt until they see it with their own eyes. The poison of earthworms isn't poison, it's food. What we throw on the ground is basically a strong broth of organic matter that releases compounds that earthworms identify very quickly. It seems crazy to see so many earthworms crawling up in seconds, but science explains it. The right smell and texture trick their sensory system, just as they've observed in soils worked for worm farms in backyards and areas with fresh manure and plant remains on top of the ground, where they pile up to feed faster instead of hiding down there. Earthworms don't have eyes like ours, but they're not lost. Their bodies are full of sensory cells that sense pressure, temperature, light, and especially chemicals, concentrated more in the front part of their body, the head that enters the soil first. These cells can perceive vibrations in the soil, changes in humidity, and the presence of certain substances, including compounds released by moist organic matter rich in nitrogen. Researchers have shown that vibrations similar to those of a mole, hunting, or heavy machinery cause earthworms to flee to the surface, trying to escape a predator underground. They also react when the environment changes suddenly, too dry, too hot, or full of a strong smell of food. Imagine when you put a compressed feast on the surface. Well-rotted manure, coffee grounds, and just the right amount of moisture, releasing amino acids and other molecules into the air and shallow soil. For an earthworm, this is like the strong smell of barbecue for us when we're hungry. She goes upstairs to eat, simple as that, guided by her sense of smell throughout her body and by receptors in her mouth that test whether the food is good or if it's something too acidic that's worth avoiding. And how do you make this broth that makes the soil boil with worms while spending almost nothing? I'll share the version that worked best for me and for the older folks who taught me. You'll need 2 heaping tablespoons of well-rotted cow manure, nothing too smelly fresh, 1 tablespoon of used and dried coffee grounds, 1 level teaspoon of regular granulated sugar, half a liter of room temperature water, and a small handful of soil from the land where you'll be using it, about 2 tablespoons. All of this costs no more than $5. And if you already have coffee and manure from your yard, it comes down to pennies. Now the step-by-step is simple. 1. Put the composted manure in a small bucket and break it up well, leaving no large clumps. 2. Mix the coffee grounds and sugar into this manure, stirring until it becomes a slightly moist and homogeneous mass. 3. Add the water little by little, stirring constantly, until it becomes a thick broth, like a very rich soup. 4. Add the soil from the site itself, stir a little more, and let this mixture rest for 20 to 30 minutes in the shade. The secret to the preparation is not to overdo the water. If it becomes too thin, it seeps in too quickly and loses strength on the surface, so it maintains the texture of thick mud. If you want to preserve it, you can store it in a tightly closed container in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. If you need it for longer, freeze it in small portions and thaw only what you will use, always keeping it away from household food. If you want to boost it, you can add a teaspoon of fish meal or ground fish feed, which increases the protein smell and attracts even more hungry worms. Half a teaspoon of molasses or very thin honey, which enhances the sweetness and helps keep the broth moist for longer on the surface. Now, let's talk about the villain. It's not that stores and manufacturers are evil. It's that the whole system revolves around packaged products, profit margins, and repeat purchases. Small bottles of bottom attractant with an artificial scent are sold for $30, $40, sometimes more, while what really makes the worms react may be in the cured manure and coffee grounds that you would throw away. It's difficult for the market to make money, teaching you how to collect manure from the corral and use leftover coffee filters. So this type of traditional trick is disappearing from the counters and remaining only in the mouths of older people. The comparison is simple. A small package of synthetic bait that lasts only a few fishing trips easily costs 10 times more than what you spend to make several buckets of this homemade mixture. When using it, there's no mystery, but there are details that make a difference. For an area of about 2 square meters, spread 4 to 5 heaping tablespoons of the mixture over the moist soil without soaking it, forming small, shallow puddles, like mud patches. Ideally, apply after a light watering or a light rain, when the soil is already moist, but not deeply muddy. The best times are usually early morning when the soil is cool, or late afternoon, avoiding strong sun that can dry the top layer too quickly. In garden soils, stream banks, and embankments with plenty of organic matter, the response is usually even faster. The species that most often appear are common earthworms from gardens and backyards, great for tilapia, lambari, catfish, and carp, as well as some larger specimens like giant earthworms when the soil is very old and little disturbed. A common mistake that ends up ruining the result is trying to dig up the soil in the first few seconds. If you use a hoe or shovel before giving them time to climb up on their own, you scare the earthworms away and lose a good part of the mass ascent. Throw the mixture in, wait quietly, observe. When the ground starts to become full of shiny streaks and moving bodies, then you can calmly take action, collecting them by hand or with a shallow shovel, without disturbing the soil. Click now, secure your access to high-level fishing, and let these strategies start transforming your next fishing trips. The link is in the first pinned comment. When you return from the water applying what you've learned, come back here and comment, "I caught more." That will be your commitment to your evolution in fishing. And perhaps it's exactly the step that separates the stories you hear from the stories you'll start telling. Think about your next fishing trip. While others spend $40 on off-the-shelf synthetic bait, you use a homemade broth made with manure and coffee grounds that cost less than $5. In a few minutes, you fill your bucket with fresh, live earthworms, ready to be used as bait, instead of picking out a handful with a hammer. Your friends will look at the ground teeming with earthworms and ask what the trick is. You decide whether to reveal the secret or keep this ancient knowledge only for those who truly value it. Old fishermen always knew that what matters in fishing isn't the pretty packaging, but understanding the behavior of the fish, the soil, the water, and the little creatures that become bait. When we revive this kind of artisanal practice, we pull back a thread of respect for nature that no store advertisement can buy. If you want to continue this journey of recovering tricks that really work and cost little, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next video.